chair set up. Alright, so I want to talk about what to look for if you are buying a rabbit, and this isn't in regards to confirmation or anything like that, it's just kind of a general, as somebody who buys rabbits online a lot and doesn't always get to see them in person, this is what I look for. And then as somebody who sells rabbits, this is what I like to include in their listings. So this is a New Zealand red buck. First thing first, if you are looking to buy a rabbit, consider what you're looking for. Are you just looking for a meat rabbit? If you're looking for a meat rabbit, there may be some disqualifications for show that don't matter to you. For example, scattered white hairs. That's a show requirement. If you're just looking for meat, you probably don't care too much about that. So be upfront with the person that you're buying the rabbits from. You may get something a little sooner if you're just looking for meat quality versus if you're looking for something that's going to be show quality. Now, whenever you do actually see the rabbit in person, you're going to want to double check the sex. I don't care who you're buying that rabbit from, sex change fairy can sneak up on anybody. So you can do that real easy. This is a senior buck, so he's definitely, but you can just pull the tail back and push, and there's penis, but he has very obvious testicles because he is a senior buck. You're also going to want to check the teeth. Now the easiest way to do that is to take the rabbit, flip it over on its back, and then you can just take your hands, let's see if I can do it with this one. Take your hands, look at the teeth, make sure they have nice straight teeth. Any type of teeth thing can be genetic. It's definitely not something that you're going to want to introduce to your lines. Also check for ear mites or fleas or anything like that. So you're always going to want to check the ears. Just take a little peek in there. Check for any crusties, any missing patches of fur. Make sure that the eyes are clear. Always take a nice look at their nose. They should not have any type of like white or yellow snot in their nose. Another really important piece to look at is their feet. You don't want to get rabbits that are going to have any type of feet issues from living on the wire. So you can see this guy has nice feet, no issues at all with being on the wire. One thing to ask, and this comes up a lot more if you're buying from show breeders than if you're buying from meat breeders, ask how they keep their rabbits. So my rabbits are all kept outside. I run fans in the summertime, but they don't get any type of AC or any other special treatment. I don't do frozen water bottles or anything like that. At most I'll do some tiles, but that's about it, tiles and fans. You wouldn't want to take somebody who keeps their rabbits in a temperature controlled barn and then throw those rabbits out in the middle of a Florida summer, which is where I live. That's also a consideration if you're buying rabbits from a different state. Here in Florida, I do not buy rabbits in the summertime from a different state. I don't think it's fair to take those rabbits, bring them down here with our super hot and humid summers, and expect them to do okay without additional care. I'll buy those rabbits in the late fall or the winter instead. That way they have plenty of time to acclimate to our summers. You're being so good. If this is important to you, and it may be more important if you are a meat breeder, ask about litter size. Like I can tell you, I have some lines of my rabbits that typically have 8 to 10 kits. I have the grandmother, the daughter, the granddaughter, they all have litters within that size range. I have another line that has much smaller litters. They tend to hover more around 4 to 6. So that's something you can ask about. If the breeders had their lines for a long time, they can probably tell you what their average litter sizes are. Another thing to consider is breedability. You can always ask, do you guys have does that are super easy breeders? You have does that tend to take a couple of times. I have Triantas. They're a breed that's not necessarily known for being super easy to breed, so that's also a question you can ask. Now, when it comes to being a seller, this is my biggest gripe. Like I said, I buy a lot of rabbits online. People will post a single picture of the rabbit, and these are the expensive show rabbits, and expect you to buy it sight unseen and have it shipped to you, and you just better hope and pray that that rabbit is what that person is saying it is. So if you are listing a rabbit for sale, please include 3 pictures. You're gonna want a side profile picture. Yeah. He's like, no, I have not had to pose in a while. You're gonna want a side profile picture of that rabbit posed up properly. Not that he's posing properly. No, he is not feeling it today. Pretend he's posed properly. A nice side profile of that rabbit posed properly. A top view of what that rabbit looks like, so you can get, do not jump off, so you can get an idea of what the shoulder to hind quarter ratio is for that rabbit. And then also a rear view picture, so you can see if that rabbit is pinched, if it's full to the table, if it's hollow in its loins. A rear picture can show you a lot about the rabbits. Please include the weight of the rabbit. If it's a junior rabbit, you can also include the weights of the parents. That's something that can be really helpful. I have creme d'argents as well. With my creme d'argents and a lot of others, they tend to struggle reaching that senior weight. I swear this thing of light is following me. But they tend to struggle with hitting senior weight, so that's definitely something that I'm looking for. If I see a creme d'argent for sale online, I want to know how much that rabbit weighs and the weight of its parents. For pedigree information, and this is for the show people, right? It's not really necessarily as important for meat breeders. Pedigrees are always important, but this particular information is really important if you're showing. It is not a full pedigree unless you have all of the information required to actually register that rabbit. So it's a personal pet peeve if somebody says fully pedigreed and then you find out that the parents or the grandparents are missing the weights or they don't have the right variety of what that rabbit is. So only say it's fully pedigreed if you have the full information that a register would require. Otherwise, you could say it's partially pedigreed, missing grandparents' weights. That's perfectly acceptable. I actually am not the hugest pedigree snob, but it is kind of annoying if you go to get a rabbit, it says it's got a full pedigree, and you look and it's missing weights, and you can't actually register that rabbit, or maybe even register the offspring of that rabbit, because you have to wait a couple generations to get a full pedigree again. Fur pictures. So this is something that's really important if he's so tired. This is something that's really important if you have a fur breed. Not so much with these guys, but if I had one of my creme d'argents out, I want to see a picture of the fur. Most common people will just blow in to the rabbit's fur and take a picture of that. That way you can see how deep it carries its color all the way down to the skin. You can also see if there's any slating, which is something that can be a problem with creme d'argents. Another nice thing to look at if you get good fur pictures is if there are scattered whites, because like I said, that's something that can be a DQ. But as a buyer, I'm happy if I can just get one picture so that I can see how deep the fur color goes. Belly photos is also something that, as somebody who breeds Triantas, I love to see. So you always want with your Triantas to have as deep of a red color as possible on the belly. I don't know that much about other color breeds, but I'm sure they have very similar requirements. So if you have a marked breed or a color breed and you're selling that rabbit online, please take a picture of the belly. That way your sellers know what they're actually getting. And then this is something that I have personally experienced as somebody who's bought rabbits, where I have not been given transition feed, or almost as annoyingly, I will be given like the teeniest, tiniest little bag of feed for like a New Zealand, and you know that transition feed's gonna last like 2 days. If you are providing transition feed, which you always should whenever you sell a rabbit, please include enough transition feed for at least like 5 days. I like to transition the rabbits over slowly, and if you give me 4 to 5 days worth of feed, preferably closer to that 5+ range, that allows me time to truly transition the rabbits over, especially if I'm getting rabbits from transport, which is already stressful enough. That extra feed just allows me to really take the time to slowly transition those rabbits over. You can also look for clipped nails if you do see the rabbit in person. That's not something you can necessarily see as easily in photos, but I always think that's kind of a dead giveaway on like the care that people are giving to their rabbits, because the nails tend to be the one thing that a lot of people neglect. And if they're not doing basic nail care, what else are they potentially not doing with their rabbits? But that's kind of what I look for as a buyer if I'm looking online, and then as somebody who would potentially be selling rabbits, that's what I do. So pretty much minimum 4 pictures, side, top, rear, and belly color. If you have a color breed, just 3 colors, or the 3 pictures if you don't have a colored breed. And it'll just make it a lot easier. You won't get 30,000 questions from people when they're looking to purchase the rabbits from you. All of the information will just already be in the ad, and hopefully that makes it a little bit easier if you are a buyer and you're looking looking online hoping to purchase your animal. Because especially if you are purchasing show stock, unfortunately, depending on what breeds you're looking at, you may not always be able to find what you're looking for available in your area, and that's when buying online can be really helpful. But definitely keep an eye out for scams. You can normally find breeders, either they'll have their own Facebook page that you can go and check out. You can check out different show reports, see if they're members of their national clubs. Ask around. If you go to a show, you may be able to ask. People tend to know, like I know pretty much all of the Creme d'Argent breeders within this half of the US, like the eastern half of the US. I pretty much know most of the people who show and have Creme d'Argents. So depending on the breed, you'll be able to ask around, and people will be able to tell you if that's a legitimate person or not. When it comes to deposits, never ever put down a deposit on a newborn baby. So much stuff can happen between when a rabbit is born and when it's actually ready. It can definitely be a sign of a scammer if they are asking you to put down deposits on very young rabbits. Some breeders will require deposits on already ready rabbits to hold it if it's going to take a couple weeks for transport. So deposit isn't necessarily a red flag, but definitely do your research. I have put deposits down on rabbits before and it's been totally okay, but it's definitely been the minority of the situation. I find most breeders don't require a deposit, but just do your research on that individual breeder. But hopefully this has been helpful to you, and good luck with either buying or selling your rabbits.